Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Colossians, the second chapter. For I would that ye knew what great conflict I have for you. When he says conflict, he means, not like, I'm conflicted, but to contend, right? To fight through prayer for them, and for them at Laodicea, and for as many as have not seen my face in the flesh. So these were churches that believed, but they hadn't, Paul hadn't actually seen them. He hadn't visited them, in person. So let's read this in the NIV. I want you to know how hard I am contending for you, and for those at Laodicea, and for all who have not met me personally, that their hearts might be comforted, being knit together into love, or in love, and onto all riches of the full assurance of understanding. So how is he contending? By praying for them, that the Lord will comfort their hearts and join them together in love, that they don't have separations and strife and divisions and falling aways, onto all riches or all abundance of the full assurance of understanding. And that comes by way of the Lord increasing your understanding to the acknowledgement of the mystery of God, right? That you would understand and acknowledge the mystery, the master plan of the Lord and of the Father and of Yahweh Shai. Because once again, you had believers, you would hear the word, right? It would be like honey in your mouth, but eventually it becomes bitter. But there's more to it than just what you hear in the very beginning, right? Now that you know, okay, these are this is what Yahweh Shai did for us. There's the benefits. What do you have to do? How do you actually grow now? How do you actually maintain yourself and others? What responsibilities does this come with? What does it actually mean for you? These are all things that you need to grow in understanding in order to fully acknowledge and grasp. Because eventually you're supposed to grow and abound and abound and abound, right? You can't just stay at the surface knowledge forever. You got to grasp the bigger picture. In whom are hid all treasures. This is Yahweh Shai, all treasures of wisdom and knowledge. So the wisdom, the knowledge that we get, which are likened onto treasures, they are hid in Yahweh Shai. So how do we get it? From Yahweh Shai. And I say this, lest any man should beguile you with enticing words, which are deceiving words. For though I be absent in the flesh, yet am I with you in the spirit, joying and beholding your order and the steadfastness of your faith in Hamashiach. So I'm not there physically, but in spirit I'm with you. And every word that I hear about you and how strong you're maintaining in the faith is a beautiful thing. As ye have therefore received Hamashiach Yahweh Shai the Lord, so walk ye in him. See? So as you've heard and you've believed, now you have to actually live according to the Lord, right? Live according to the gospel. Follow the fruits and the merits of the Spirit, rooted and built up in him, right? So build that strong foundation in the Lord. Really understand what you're a part of, and dig your feet into it, right? Get into it, as they say, and established in the faith, right? That is, be strengthened, be established in the faith, as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. So it's all about growth, not staying stagnant, not just being a novice, but growing, because that is needful to be able to defend against these false teachings that would come about. That's needful for you to be able to help others eventually become teachers, build up others. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach. So Paul's warning them, right? Beware lest anybody spoils you, i.e., to take you off the path from what you have been taught in Yahweh Shai through some philosophy. Let's go into that word philosophy. Some like not Gnosticism, says here, love of wisdom used either of zeal or for or skill in any art or science, any branch of knowledge, used once in the New Testament of the theology, or rather theosophy, of certain Jewish Christian ascetics, which busied itself with refined and speculative inquiries into the nature and classes of angels, into the ritual of the Mosaic law, and the regulations of Jewish tradition respecting practical life. See, so that's a part of the things that Paul was saying. Be careful of, because they'll make it sound like it's some super deep knowledge. This is exclusive to us, and you got to come and join in here and do this, that, and the third. But he's saying, no, no, no. If it's not after Yahushai, the Yahushai you were taught, you stay away from it. And vain deceit, because at the end of it, it's all to deceive you, but it's in vain. It doesn't hold any power. It doesn't hold any merit. There's some things that they made up in their head that they believe, but it's not the actual truth. After the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world. Let's go into that word, rudiments. Stoichion. It says here, fundamental. I'm looking at the Strong's definition here. Fundamental, initial, constituent, principle. Okay, so it says here, any first thing from which the others belonging to some series or composite whole take their rise. An element, a first principle. Right, elements from which all things have come, the material causes of the universe. Basically, those basic those principles, going back to the basics of everything, but not, in the sense of the basics of Yahweh Shai, not that. Okay, so they'll try to use the fundamentals of the world and the science and the this and the that to lead you astray, and Paul's warning against that. Yeah, it says here, interesting here. NLT, don't let anyone capture you with empty philosophies and high-sounding nonsense that come from human thinking and from spiritual powers or the spiritual principles of this world rather than from Hamashiach. For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. Let's go into that word Godhead. But basically, well, let's start with fullness. Right, fullness, abundance. Here it says, in the New Testament, the body of believers as that which is filled with the presence, power, agency, riches of God and of Hamashiach. So basically, the completeness, the fullness, the entirety of the Godhead. Right, the state of being God, the Godhead. So the divinity, right, the divine power, bodily, because he had that. And he mentioned bodily because, remember, they were pushing that if the body is evil, God couldn't have created matter, so it wouldn't make sense for Yahushua to be divinely inspired in the flesh if the flesh is evil. In fact, you don't even need to account for the things of the flesh because they're just evil deeds. So he's saying no, the fullness of the divine power dwelt in him bodily. Okay, and ye are complete in him. It says here, matter of fact, before we go ahead, let me let's look up here. Gnosticism. It says Gnosticism is a diverse ancient religious movement centered on achieving salvation through secret, intuitive spiritual knowledge, gnosis, to liberate the divine spark within humans from the evil material world. Which they believe was created by a lesser, flawed deity, not the true remote God. That's why Paul had to emphasize, nope, this was created by Yahushai through the influence or through the spirit and power of the Most High. Key tenets include spirit-matter dualism. The spirit is good, matter is evil. The figure of Hamashiach as a revealer of gnosis and a focus on internal mystical experience over external ritual, often contrasting with mainstream Judaism and Christianity as seen in texts like Nag Hammadi Library. Okay, well, there's that. Let's see what they say here. Divine spark. Humans possess a fragment of the divine spirit trapped in their material bodies. Yeah, okay. So anyway, that's what Paul was defending against here, because that they were pushing that there at that time. So it says here, where we at? Verse 10. And ye are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power. Right. So we're made complete in Yahweh Shai, who is the head, who is the head of what? Of all principle or principality and power, because everything was given into the authority or the power of Yahweh Shai. In whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands. See, which is that circumcision of the mind through faith and belief in Yahweh Shai, right? And that's what would make us clean and unblameable before the Lord. Putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Hamashiach. So here, circumcision is likened onto, rather than physically cutting off the foreskin, you're actually cutting off the foreskin of the mind, or the foreskin of the sins, or the sinful deeds of the flesh. So by cutting those off and stopping them, it's likened onto being circumcised in Yahweh Shai by putting off the sins of the flesh, buried with him in baptism, right? Having been baptized into Yahweh Shai's death, right? Nailing that old man onto the cross, wherein also ye are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, right? So by the faith in the working of the Most High, we are risen with Yahweh Shai. That is unto newness of life, having a renewed mind. Just as he was risen from the dead, our old selves are dead, and we are in the new creature in Yahweh Shai, who hath raised him from the dead. And you being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses. So we being dead in, well, as it says, you being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, right? Because you had a lot of them that actually weren't circumcised, but more so they weren't circumcised in the mind by continuing the wicked deeds of the flesh. But in that dead state, the Lord quickened; He made you alive together with Yahweh Shai, having forgiven you all trespasses, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the cross. The handwriting of ordinances against us was like penalties that were laid against us for the deeds of the flesh that we did. He canceled the record of the charges against us and took it away by nailing it to the cross. Verse 15, and having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a shoe of them openly, triumphing over them in it. In this way he disarmed the spiritual rulers and authorities. He shamed them publicly by his victory over them on the cross. So basically everything that Yahweh Shai gained dominion over was now subjected under him. That includes Satan, that includes death, that includes sin, that includes everything, because he gained the triumph over it. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or in the new moon uh or of the Sabbath days. Okay. And basically what he's saying is what Paul is saying is don't let anybody judge you for the particulars of the works of the law, because that is not what is going to deliver you at the end of the day, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Hamashiach. So those things, the works of the law, these are a shadow of things to come, but they're not the actual thing causing or casting the shadow. Remember, these were based on what was showed Moses in the mount. Well, what was showed Moses was based on something that he saw or was revealed to him as to the design of the heavens on earth as it is in heaven, not in heaven as it is on earth. So the heavenly pattern casted the shadow on the earth. So the things that we did, the Mosaic law and all that, that was a shadow cast from the heavenly high priesthood. Okay, so it says here, which are, let's go into that word body. The last definition, right? That which casts a shadow as distinguished from the shadow itself. So Yahushai is the one who casts the shadow, the actual shadow. He is the image itself from which the shadow is based. That's why Paul is saying here, Yahushai is superior. The Sabbath days and the new moons and the high holy days and the drink and the food, these are the shadow of Yahushai himself. So what's more what's more powerful, the shadow or the one casting the shadow? So what are you gonna base your energy, your salvation, and your faith in? The shadow or the one casting the shadow? Verse 18, let no man beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshiping of angels in truth. See, so why is Paul mentioning worshiping of angels? Because that is a part of the things they were pushing at the time. That goes back to that Gnosticism, and that idea that they were pushing, that everything had to be created from some lesser imperfect being like angels, and going into the details of that. We went into that when we read the word philosophy. So says here, and worshiping of angels, the voluntary humility is the fake humbleness, and worshiping of angels, intruding into those things which he hath not seen. So they haven't seen it, they don't know it, they don't have certainty on it, but they're speaking on it as though there's some experts on it. Vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind. You gotta watch out. Gotta watch out for those kind of guys. Let's read this. In the NKJV, it says, let no one cheat you of your reward. So how would they cheat you? Your reward is through Yahushua. But if you let somebody deceive you, you're going to lose that. Taking delight in false humility and worship of angels, intruding into those things which he has not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind, pushing some wayward doctrine that he doesn't even understand, and not holding the head, which is Yahushua, from which all the body by joints and bands have nourished or nourishment ministered and knit together increase with the increase of God. So whoever's teaching that is not connected, right? NLT, and they are not connected to Hamashiach, the head of the body. For he holds the whole body together with its joints and ligaments, and it grows as God nourishes it. Wherefore, if ye be dead with Hamashiach from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances? See? So Paul's saying, like, if you die to the system, the rudiments of the world, it makes no sense to keep living under its rules. You got to live under the way, the new life, the one that gave you that newness of life. You got to live according to his rules. Touch not, taste not, handle not, which all are to perish with the using after the commandments and doctrines of men, which things have indeed a shew of wisdom in will worship and humility and neglecting of the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. Okay, and basically the touch not, taste not, handle not, these are man-made regulations. Okay, and they sound holy, but really it's shallow. It's mainly just dealing with the flesh. It's like disciplining the flesh, right? Which we read about that. When you go back and watch the video in Colossians 1 about the background of the things that were being taught here, the wayward things that were being taught, that included this, right? The flesh matter is evil, so you got to punish it, all right? And the evil works that it does, you can disregard because it's evil anyway. Let's read that verse 2 here. So it says here in the NIV, these rules, which have to do with things that are all destined to perish with use, are based on merely human commands and teachings. Don't touch this, don't eat this, don't do that. It's all perishable anyway. Verse 23, so as it says, which things have indeed a shew of wisdom in will worship and humility and neglecting of the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. Okay, so these rules look wise, but they're not of any value. Okay, they're not of any value. They're just about neglecting things and not indulging in the flesh. But where is the spiritual growth? Okay, you can starve the body, right? You can punish the flesh, you can restrict behavior, and yet you can still be ruled by sinful deeds, pride, lust, anger, etc. So those aren't the things that actually make your spirit stronger or better or more obedient to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And that brings us to the end of the book of Colossians, the second chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.